Okay, today's daf. Hello, everyone. Today's daf is Masechta Bava Metzia Daf Lamed Hey 35. And we're going to start from Daf Lamed Dalid Umid Beis by Umar Avhina. Okay, let me make it big. Umar Avhina. So we're starting from Daf Lamed Dalid Umid Beis towards the middle of the page. Umar Avhina. The Mishnah said the following thing. The Mishnah said that if a Shoy Mesachar who was watching an item and it got stolen from him. So the Mishnah said that if he doesn't want to potter himself, exempt himself from paying by taking a shvuah that the item was stolen. So what he does is he makes he says I want to pay for it. If he wants to allow him to pay for it, and basically retroactively, some way, he now the item. So if he didn't want to swear, he could actually buy the item retroactively. So that is from the simple reading of the Mishnah means he doesn't have to swear at all. He doesn't have to make any shvuah just by paying for the item. And he says, I don't want to pay. I don't want to make a shvuah. Then we allow him to get away with that. Okay. Hi, Lewis. We are now on Lamedalit Amid Beis by the middle of the page by Amar Rav Huna. Okay, Amar Rav Huna. So the Gemara says like this: Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, "Mashbiyan oisay shvua she'ena b'rshusai." That means that no one can get away. A shomer chinam cannot say, "Oh, I'm going to pay you for the item that was stolen from me. I don't want to swear." And no, we make you make a shvua that you still don't have the item in your possession. Because my time, why do we make the shomer, the one who's safeguarding the item, make a swear that he doesn't have the item in his possessions? Chayshinan, the reason is shemenosam einav ba. We are concerned that maybe he put his eye on the item, and he wants to own the item. So the best way of owning the item is by telling the owner it was stolen, and here, let me pay for it. And basically, in a backhanded way, you purchased the item. So we don't let you do that without taking a shvuah first that the item that you were watching is no more in your reshus. You don't know, it's not in your reshus. It's not in your domain. So that was Rav Huna's big chiddush because it doesn't say that in the Mishnah. The Mishnah seems to imply that all you got to do. The Mishnah seems to imply all you have to do is pay for the item, and you own the item. That's what the Mishnah seems to say. Comes along Rav Huna, and he says that no matter what, you have to make a shvuah. If you safeguarded an item and you claiming that it was stolen, but you don't want to swear that it was stolen, you want to just pay for the item that you were safeguarding, you still have to make a shvuah that the item is not in your domain, because we are concerned that maybe you have your eye out on the item and you want to, in a backhanded way, purchase the items. So we make you take. Says the Gemara, Meisvei, I'll ask you a question. The Brisa says, Hamalvas chaver al mashkin. Someone lends his friend, and the loiva, the borrower, gave him a mashkin. And v'avar mashkin, and the mashkin was lost. The collateral was lost. V'amalai. So the Malva says to the loiva, sell vehi v'sicha. I lent you a sela, shekel hayishava, but your mashkin was only worth a half a sela. So basically, you loiva owe me a half a sela. But the loiva says, "Loi ki ela sela bisani olav sela v'hayishava." That true that loan was a sela, but my mashkin that I gave you was a shela. So basically, the loiva says, "I don't owe you anything anymore. You lost the mashkin I gave you." Potter, so the loiva is potter from paying for making a shvuah because he's a koifer hakol. He denies everything. He denies that he owes anything. But case number two is sela hilvisicha olav. He says, I lent you a sela. The Malva says, I lent you a sela. Shekel hayishava, but your item was only worth half a shekel. So you owe me a half a shekel. The loiva says, "Loi ki ela sela bisani olav." You lent me a shekel, I agreed to that. But shloisha dudarim hayishava. But the item was worth 3 dinars, and all I owe you is 25 dinars. 1 dinar. I owe you 1 dinar, basically. So basically, he is agreeing. The loiva is now agreeing to the malva that he owes a part of the loan back. The malva says you owe me a shekel, which is 2 dinars, and the loiva says I only owe you 1 dinar. Chayev, the loiva has to swear. He has to swear because that's a moide b'miktzas. He has to swear how much the mashkin was worth. Number three, Sela he'll be seen olav. You say the Malvus, the Loiva says. Now the third case is the Loiva talking. I borrowed a Sela from you, but my mashkin was beis hayeshava, was worth 2 sloim. So I gave you a mashkin worth much more than the loan. And the opposite case is oimer loy ki, not so. The Malva says Sela ibisicha olav. You're right. The loan was a Sela. Sela hayeshav, but your mashkin was worth a Sela, so I don't owe you anything. Potter. So the Malva is potter from paying because he's denying that he owes the loiva anything. But what happens if the loiva says, the borrower says, Sela v'yisina olav, you lent me I borrowed a Sela from you. Shnayim hayeshava, and my mashkin that I gave you was worth 2. So basically you owe me 1 Sela back. But the lender says, Loiki, that's the way you said it. I lent you a Sela, but hey dinar on hayeshava. But your mashkin was only worth 5 dinars. Instead of 4 dinars, which is a Sela, it was worth 5 dinars. So I owe you back 1 dinar because your mashkin was worth more than the loan by 1 dinar. So he's agreeing that he owes something back, partially back to the loiva. So then Chayev, the Malva, has to swear. So the Mishnah says, the Brisa says, Lami Nishba, who always does the swearing? Misha Pagodan Etzloi, Shami Yishav as a Pagodan. We always want the Malva to make the Shvua. That's very interesting. We always want the Malva to make the Shvua, even though the loiver sometimes has to swear if he's the Maidim Mixus, but we're going to make the Malva always swear, the lender. Why? Because he's holding on to the mashkin. And what we're concerned is that this could really, blow a hole into the loiva. Let's say the loiva swears it was worth such amount, and the Malva says, "Oh yeah, let me pull out the mashkin. I still have it." And he'll prove that the loiva swore falsely. So we're setting up the loiva to swear falsely, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to, set somebody up. So and then the loiva will forever be labeled as somebody who swore falsely in Bezdin with a Sefer Torah, and he will never be able to say testimony. So we always make the Malva do the swearing. That's what the Brisa ends off. Very interesting thing. Now the Gemara says, Ahaya. What case do we always say that the Malva should swear? Ilema Seifa, do we say that it's the Moide, when the Malva is a Moide b'miktsas, we always want the Malva to swear? Wait a second. That's, of course, he's going to swear. The Malva is the one that's supposed to swear. The last 2 cases of the Brisa is where the Malva is saying, either he was a kofer hakol, so he doesn't have to swear, and the very last case is where the Malva says, I owe you loiva something, not as much as you claim. So of course the Malva does the swearing because he's a moida b'miktsas. He's agreeing to partial. When you agree to a partial of a claim, you have to make a shvua. Shmuel says that the novelty of the brisa is telling you aresh. It's going on the beginning of the brisa. Well, really, the loiva is supposed to swear. My aresha, sefer deresha. The second case number 2, and the Gemara just repeats that case. Sela hilvisicha olav. The Malva says to the loiva, I lent you a sela, and the mashkin that you gave me was shekel hayeshava, was worth only half a sela. So you owe me a half a sela. I lost your mashkin, so now you owe me a half a sela. But the loiva says, Loiki, it's not the way you said it. You lent me a sela. Shloisha dinar and hayeshava. But my mashkin was worth 3 dinars. So I owe you, instead of 2 dinars, I owe you just 1 dinar. He has to swear the shvu gabi loivehu, because really the loiva should be swearing because he's the maidim mixus. Comes along now, the end of the brisa says, the Amar Rabbanan, Rabbi says, let the malva do the swearing. We let the loiva swear. Maybe the malva will pull out the pekadon and show the world that the loiva is a false swearer. So it could lead to real embarrassment to the loiva. So we'd always want the lender to do the swearing. Now, this is where the brisa ends, and now we're getting to our question. Then Isa, we go to Daf Lamed Heyaram Aleph. Then Isa Rav Huna, if you hold the Rav Huna's situation, Rav Huna always said that in all cases, when you're watching something for somebody and you claim that it was lost or stolen, you have to make a shavua that you don't have it anymore. It's not in your possession because we are afraid that you're just hiding it. And because you want to own the item, even if you want to pay for the item, you have to make a shvua that it's not in your rishus. You don't own it. So therefore, why do I make the question is, the Gemara says, if you hold of what Rav Huna just said, Kevin the Mishtaba Malva Sheini B'Rishusai, as soon as the Malva swears that it's not in his domain, how is he going to pull it out? He's already swore that he doesn't have it in his possession. So of course we can make the loiva do the swearing, because I'm never afraid that the Malva is going to pull it out because he swore that he doesn't have it. So do we hold of what Rav Huna said? Rava said, Sheyesh Edim Shnisrafa. So we have witnesses that that we know for sure that the Malva is never going to pull it out. So that's why he didn't swear, because the Edim said that the mashkin was burnt. So then the Gemara says, then why don't we make the loiva swear? How should the Malva pull it out? What am I all concerned that the Malva is going to pull it out and show the loiva that you swore falsely? If the Adam says that the collateral was burned, so the Malva will never be able to pull it out. Ella Amar Rav Yosef explained better than Rava. Sheyesh Edim Shenignava. There are witnesses that it was stolen. So the Malva doesn't have to swear that it's not in his rishus. So therefore, the loiva should do the swearing. So therefore, the loiva really could. We're never afraid that the loiva, that the Malva is going to pull it out, because there are Edim that saw it stolen. So then again, the question is, then why do we make the Malva swear? Swear how much the item was worth? The loiva should do the swearing, because how is the Malva ever going to pull it out and prove the loiva wrong? And says the Gemara, the Torah u'maisila, the Malva has a way of finding who the ganav is. And if he finds who the ganav is, and the loiva swore it was worth X amount, the Malva could somehow find the ganav, pull the mashkin back, and then show the world that the loiva is a complete liar. If that's what you're concerned about, just like you say that the Malva could find who the Ganef was, the Loiva could also find who the Ganef was. If the Malva is going to swear how much the item was worth, then the Loiva is going to find the Ganef and pull the Ganef, pull the item back from the Ganef and show the world that the Malva is a liar. So the Gemara says it's not so easy for a loiva to find the ganef as it is for the malva, because the mashkin is in the house of the malva. So the malva has a head start. He could look at his security cameras and figure out who the ganef was. So but the loiva has nowhere to begin to find who the ganef is. So we're never concerned about that. We're always concerned that the Malva could find who the Ganef was, but also the Tarach Maisela. Therefore, he could pull, if the Loiva is going to do the swearing, the Malva is going to find the Ganef and find the item and show everyone that the Loiva who swore how much the item was worth was a liar. So therefore, we don't make the loiva swear; we make the malva swear. But ela loiva, by the opposite situation, mi yodaman al v'nofek b'beis the malva. Does a loiva knows who goes in and out of the malva's house? So he'll never be able to find who the ganef was. So if we made the malva swear, it's not very unlikely that the loiva will be able to find who the ganef was and prove the malva wrong. So anyway, what the Gemara just explained, what the Brisa meant to say, is that in all scenarios, if the malva was watching, even though the shvua really the loiva should make, we make the malva make the shvua. Abaya says also, Abaya just gives another answer. Yeah, we could hold of Rav Huna. The malva says it's not in my rishus. Of course, it's not a rishus, but we still don't make the loiva swear, because if we make the loiva swear, then the malva will pull out the mashkin. You just swore that it wasn't in your rishus. He can say, yes, I swore it wasn't in my rishus, but now I found it. I left it in the park or something, and therefore we don't want the loiva to swear. We always want the malva to swear. Ravashi says, Zev nishba v'zev nishba. You're right. You don't have to exclude that this Bryce is not against Rav Huna's a statement. The Brisa could agree to Rav Huna that the malva and the loiva swears. Zen nishba she'ein b'rishusai. The malva swears it's not in his rishus, which is a shvua derabbanan. V'zen nishba kama hayeshava. And this one, and the loiva swears how much it was worth. And I'm sorry, the loiva swears how much it was worth. It's not that the malva is not going to swear. The hachi kamar, and this is what the brisa means. The loiva does the swearing, not like you've been learning till now that always the malva does the swearing. If the loiva is obligated to make a shvua moide b'miktsas, even though it's a doiraisa, we make the malva swear first. his shvua derabanan. V'hachi kaman. This is what the brisa means. Mi nishbat chila. Who takes their oath first? Malva nishbat chila. The lender makes their oath first. Shema yishav zev yetzalas b'kadam. Because if we made the loiva swear first, and he says, oh, it was worth X amount of money, right? And then the Malva says, wait a second, you're swearing that it was worth X amount of money? I'm pulling it out, and it was worth 2 times. I say it was worth much less than X. It was half X. So, it's worth less than what you're saying. So he'll prove the loiva wrong and shame him. So therefore, we make the Malva swears that he doesn't have it first. And then we make the loiva swear his shvua might have been mixes. And the Gemara continues. Rav Chuna bar Tachlif Mishmei de Rava Amar. He says another question. Reisha de Sefer Tiyuf de Rav Huna. The second case of this brisa is really a difficulty against Rabbi Yehuda. Let's take a look at the second case. Sel behivisinov. The Malva says, I lent you a seller, and shtayim. This is the third case. Shtayim hayashava. And the loiva says, you're right, the loan was a seller, but the collateral that I gave you was worth 2, right? So you owe me 1. But the Malva says, no, loy ki. The loan was 1, and your mashkin that you gave me, Selah Haishav, was 1. Potter, he doesn't have to swear. The Malva does not have to swear. Even though the loiva is claiming that you owe me a selah back because the mashkin that I gave you was worth 2 slime. But the Malva is a koifer hakoil, he doesn't have to swear. So the Gemara says, but if you hold a Rav Huna that a Malva, anybody who's watching something and he claims that it was stolen, always has to make a shvuah. So according to Rav Huna, why don't we say that the Malva has to make 2 shvuahs? Since you're making the Malva swear that it wasn't in his domain, let him make a shvuah. Now, once you're making him make that shvuah that it wasn't his rishus, then he can make the shvuah that how much the thing was worth. Just because he's a kaifer hakol, he's telling me he denies everything, so therefore he doesn't have to make a shvuah. But he's anyway making 1 shvuah, so let him make another shvuah, how much it was worth. So why do we say the Malva is always potter from making a shvuah? Rav Ashi, I'm recently Shmaitze coming Kana. I said this Bryce in front of Rav Huna, but Amalei, and he told me like this. Very interesting answer. The reason why this Bryce is very unique, that the loiva really doesn't need the Malva to make any shvuah, because it's talking about a loiva that trusts his Malva. In other words, the borrower believes the Malva, and he believes whatever the Malva says. He believes him that it was stolen, right? He believes him that he lost it, and that's all. And so then, if that's the case, if he's such a believer, why doesn't the loiva, the borrower, believe the lender how much it was worth? And says the Gemara, how much the mashkin was worth? Why do we say when they have a difference, then sometimes the malva will do a shvuah? And says the Gemara, because that part, like him le begave, the loiva doesn't trust the malva because he only was watching it as a mashkin, but he doesn't really know the item well enough, like the loiva, who really owns the item. So now the Gemara asks the other way. If they're trustworthy people and they trust each other, let the malva believe the loiva, the kimle begavai, that the loiva knows how much it's worth. And therefore, why do we ever make the loiva swear? The malva should trust the loiva how much it's worth. Answers the Gemara, loy mehem lei. A lender doesn't believe the borrower. So the Gemara says that, Maishna, what's the difference? Loiva de mehemene le malva. A borrower will believe the lender, umaishna malva de loy mehemene le loiva, and the lender will not believe the borrower. If they're trustworthy Jewish people, they should believe each other. So the Gemara says a fascinating answer. Loiva mekayim b'malva, a borrower who's usually a poor person, he looks at the lender as God made him rich, because he must be an honest person. So the loiva is more trusting. And there's a pasuk in Mishlei, Tumas Yisharim, the honesty of somebody who's straight, Tanchem, God will guide that person to become wealthy. So the fact that the person's wealthy, the loiva trusts the malva in what he says, that if he says it was stolen, he believes it. The only thing he doesn't trust him is how much it's worth, but he does trust him that it was stolen. that the malva and the malva doesn't have it anymore. Malva does not trust the loiva. He mekayim beloiva. He looks at the borrower as a poor person, and he says v'selef boidim yishadem. The fact that he's a corrupted person and betrays the Torah, yishadem, that causes him to be poor. So the lender does not trust the loiva, and that's why that price is an unusual case. Now the Gemara gives you a little story, but a very important story over here. The Gemara says like this: Ahu Gavra, there was this person, the Afkid Kefa Gabe Chavre. He left gold rings by his friend. That the other person was supposed to watch it. Amalei, so he asked the person, Havli Kefi, give me back my gold rings. Amalei, Leidana Hecha Asibna. I forgot where I put them, says the watchman. Azla Kamder, Rav Nachman says, Amalei, Kol Lo Yadana Pshiasi. If you don't know where you put the gold rings that you were supposed to watch, you are negligent. Dil Shalem, you have to pay. Loy Shilem. He didn't pay for the gold rings. Also, Rav Nachman, Agbe Ande Menei. So Rav Nachman went and took away the house belonging to the watchman away from him. He foreclosed on his house because he owed these gold rings that he was supposed to watch. Then he found the gold rings, and now the gold rings ran up. Well, he gave his house for those gold rings. So really, the gold rings now belong to the watchman. Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman said, you give back the gold rings and we give you back your house, but the profit of the capital gains of the gold rings belong to its original owner, not the watchman who got his house confiscated away to pay for that. Amar Rava, so Rava said, why don't we say it belongs to the watchman? Let him enjoy the capital, the appreciation of the gold rings. Because that's what our Mishnah says. If he paid for something, it should belong to him. Amar Rava said, "Have you seen me come to Rav Nachman? We were sitting in front of Rav Nachman. We have brought him a question. We learned in Parak HaMafkin, and in Mafkin it says, if you pay for something, you own it. So what's the difference between our Mishnah and the case of Rav Nachman? Loy ahadale. Rav Nachman did not answer me. It's very good Rav Nachman didn't answer me because it gave me time to think about how I could answer this question myself. My time, what's the difference? Hassam over there in our Mishnah Loya Trachel Bezdin. A guy offered up to pay. He didn't bother Bezdin to do the confiscation of his property. He paid for it on his own. So therefore, he owns the item, and therefore he gets the kefil, as we learned in our Mishnah. Rav Nachman had to confiscate his house. So Rav Nachman had to confiscate his house. Therefore, it really doesn't belong to him even after capital appreciation. So if he finds the gold rings, he has to return it, and we give him back his house. Remember, does Rav Nachman always hold that when Bezdin confiscates something back, you could return it? Answers the Gemara, Shana Hamsham over there, the Shuma B'toyis Hava, the Kavo Kaife Mi'ikare. It really was a mistake, the whole thing. He said he doesn't know where the gold rings are, but he did have the gold rings, and therefore, this type of confiscation, Rav Nachman says, has to go back. It has to be reversed. However, normally when Bezdin confiscates something, let's say a guy owes us $100,000, he has nowhere to pay for it, right? Then Bezdin confiscates his house. Sometimes once the foreclosure happens, then we don't return it. There's no backsies over here. So it's really a machlekes. Amri Nehardor, he says, Shuma Hoda Atresi Archechashate. You can get back your whatever was foreclosed upon you. You have 12 months to buy it back. Ameimer says, I come from the Nahardoi, and really we hold, if something is confiscated from you, and then you find the money, you can buy it back. Because the Hilchah says, you could always buy anything that Bezdin confiscated from you forever. We want people to go above and beyond the law. And really, if a guy borrowed money and didn't have what to pay back, and they foreclosed on his house and took away his house, in the letter of the law, you have 12 months to redeem your house. But the halacha is that we want people to go beyond the letter of the law and allow people to buy back their house forever if they ever come up with the money. So now the Gemara says, if they foreclosed on the house and now the lender has the house, and the lender got that house foreclosed upon and gave it to his lender, so then the first borrower go back to the lender's lender and get back his house. because that's the way. He can't be better than the first lender. So that was clear. So if the Balchoiv took away the house, then the original borrower can pay back the Balchoiv of the Balchoiv and get his house back. But Zabna Ursa Biav Matana, so if the Balchoiv, the lender, foreclosed on the house and then sold it or gave it a gift to somebody or died and his kids inherited in it, then there's no backsies anymore. So therefore, the people that bought it from him really bought it to get the land, not that they should have now a problem with the original owner of the land says, I want to buy it back. It's too late. Once the lender who foreclosed on the property sold the property, then we don't give the right to the borrower to redeem his property back. Let's say a woman was supposed to got foreclosed on a property that they gave her a property. The insva, and she got married. So now the property belongs to her husband. So then, if they took away a property from a woman, the insva umesin, then she died. So then, the husband is a purchaser. So therefore, in case number one, where they gave her a property, so the husband who now owns the property through his wife does not have to give it back to the borrower, because it's almost as if he bought it off his wife, and therefore, we said, once you buy a property off the lender, you don't have to give the borrower the right to buy the property back. But the other way is if we took away a property from the woman, we don't give it back to the husband, because really he's not an inheritor. When his wife died, he didn't inherit that yet. He's only a purchaser. A woman sold her property while her husband was alive and she died. The husband can say she had no right to sell it because I'm the first buyer. I'm not an inheritor. So that is how we treat a husband. He's a purchaser. So any right a purchaser has or foreclosed property is the same thing a husband has. Now we go to Amid Beis. Agbei, we'll just do another minute and then we'll stop. Agbei uhu b'chayvei. The question is, let's say instead of foreclosing on the property, the borrower on his own says, take the property. You don't have to go to Bezdin. I'm giving you my property. Can he buy it back? So Pligi bar Rav Acha Ravina. Rav Acha Ravina had a disagreement on that. Chad Amahadra. One said he could buy it back. Chad Amaloi Hadra. One said you cannot buy it back. Now, Manda Amaloi Hadra, the one that said he can never buy it back, Savar, he said, Hai Zavina Ma'alihi. This is like he sold it to him. He said, I borrowed money from you. I have no money to pay you back. We don't have to foreclose on the property. I'm giving you my property. So then he can never buy it back. Because the guy, he gave it over to his lender on his own free will. So therefore, we don't give him a right to get it back. On the Hadra, but the one that says we do give him the right to give it back, Savar, Loisvina Ma'alio. That's not like he sold it back to his lender. It's not the regular way you sell something. The fact that he did it on his own free will, and he didn't want to go to a court to have them foreclose on his property, because it's embarrassing to have your property foreclosed upon. He wanted to keep it out of the news, the shul news. So therefore, he just gave the property. So we always give him the right to get it back. So that's a very interesting thing. And then finally, the Gemara. So that's the machlokes. If the borrower gave the property without bezdin on his own free will to the lender. One opinion is so he can never take it back, and the other opinion is he could take it back. Once a bezdin says, the final question is, when do you own the property? When does the lender own the property? That he now, all the profits, all the rent money belong to him. As soon as he wins the case in bezdin, even before he foreclosed on the property, all the rent money now belongs to the lender, because he has a proof in his hand that he won the case. Not only before the document that proves he won the case, which you get that weeks later after the case is closed, but as soon as Adam signed on that document, even before he received the document that he won the case, automatically the lender now owns the property and he eats the fruits of the property, the rent money. But Rava says no, only when they put it on the auction block, and make sure that nobody else wants to buy that property and pay more money, only then, when the auction is closed, that's when you own the property. So it's a homachloikis in the Gemara. When does the lender actually own the property that he's closing upon? Okay, this is big problems when people don't pay their loans. Okay, we'll deal with the Mishnah tomorrow.